Thank you and welcome to Film Inquiry Roundtable number 4, where we're going to be talking about hidden gems, movies that are maybe not as well known that we want to get out to people. My name is Kristy Strouse. I'm editor-in-chief of Film Inquiry, newly transitioned, and I'm extremely and incredibly grateful to be part of this amazing site and its wonderful community of writers and readers, truly. So thank you, everybody here, for joining and anyone watching. And yeah, these are, difficult times, but important ones. And I look forward and hope for lots of positive change in the future. And so to begin, let's just get a little intro to everybody that's joining us. So Jake, if you can start us off.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Jake Tropila. This month is actually celebrates my 2-year anniversary with Film Inquiry. So I'm a writer and an editor. And I love being here, and I love you all.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Lee, and I have been within Film Inquiry for almost 2 years as well. And frankly, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I'm very glad that I'm here, and I'm very glad that I'm here in this discussion. I've been involved in some of the past ones, and I can't wait to talk about today's.
Hi guys, I'm Luke Parker. I'm actually one of the newer writers here. Well, not newer. I've been here about 8 or 9 months, and it's really a great atmosphere. If you guys are familiar with the environment here, it's super nice, super outgoing, and super inclusive. So I've really enjoyed my time here, and thanks for letting me be a part of this video too.
I'll go. My name's Danny Anderson, and I should check. I think it's been about a year. It could be 18 months. Honestly, I don't remember. But yeah, I've been really loving working with everybody here. And this is a couple of these I've participated in, these little video chats, and I really enjoy them. I think they're a lot of fun. I really can't wait to hear what you guys have to say tonight.
Hey, I'm Emily Wheeler. I've been with Film Inquiry 3 or 4 years, long enough that I've lost track of when I started. This is my second of these videos, so knowing how it's going to go, I'm mostly looking forward to getting massacred by Jake's trivia.
We all will be.
So,
No.
I'm Alex. I think I've been with Film Inquiry since 2014, so I guess that's 6 years. Yeah, no, I'm ancient. No, it's a great site, very formative in my writing career, and a lot of fun stuff. And so yeah, longtime writer, first time appearance on the Roundtable. So thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Mark McPherson, and I've been writing for the site for a little over a year now, and I've just absolutely enjoyed it. Yeah, I've written for like a lot of places, but I really do enjoy writing for this site and this community, and doing stuff like this as well.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it's a fun way to kind of interact with people, and it's also always wonderful to see some of you that I've never met, or just to have this, fun film interaction. And I appreciate everybody for being here and for everything that you just said. So to kick it off, I decided there's so many movies that I could talk about, as I'm sure all of you feel this way, as far as movies that you want to get out there, you want to recommend that maybe people don't know about, that you feel are hidden gems. So I decided to kind of look through my very long shelf of movies and think about some that were maybe by directors that have had a movie that people knew about, but this was a lesser known one that I personally love. So I'll get this sad one out of the way because it's Lynn Shelton, very wonderful, talented director that recently passed. But Your Sister, Sister, which I love. And for some reason, I feel like a lot of people I've spoken to didn't know about this movie or hadn't seen it. And I just think it's a really funny and very well made movie that deserves to be seen, much like many of her films. And not even on purpose, but I do like Mark Duplass, so I mean, maybe that just like happened to come up this way. But this is Colin Trevorrow, but this is Safety Not Guaranteed, and I absolutely adore this movie. It's hilarious, it's weird, Um, definitely, you know, it's mixes drama, comedy, and obviously, you know, time travel. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's a movie that I personally always enjoy. It's something, it's almost kind of to go back to one of our previous either videos or Twitter audio. It's a kind of a movie for me as well. And then this is The Guest, which is Adam Wingard, and I love this movie. I think it's a great film, and for some reason I feel like it kind of gets, and yes, I have props, I feel like it kind of gets overlooked a lot. And yeah, and so those are just three. I don't want to spend too much time talking about them, but so Jake, if you want to tell us or about some of yours.
Well, sure. I was gonna feel bad about going from such nice films into a bloodbath, but then you
But I did
mentioned
exactly the same thing.
but then you mentioned The Guest, so that's okay by me. The first film that came to mind is a movie from 2007 called The Signal. I don't know if anybody's heard of this movie, let alone seen it. It's kind of faded into obscurity because of the 2014 movie starring Lawrence Fishburne with the same name. But The Signal is technically it's a horror anthology, but what it is, it's set on New Year's Eve. It's a woman, her lover, and her abusive husband are caught in this bizarre love triangle. She's trying to leave the abusive husband with her lover, who's an artist, and he's on to her. But while he's suspecting her infidelity, this signal just randomly starts transmitting on everybody's television sets and phones, and it drives everybody into these murderous rampages. And I thought of the title or the film before last week's events happened, where such things were prevalent on television. But it's a really good movie, and the film is directed by 3 directors, and each tackles a third of the movie, and each third, like, there's a turning point where it shifts POVs to one of the 3 main characters. And it was only shot for like $50,000, but it looks fantastic. And I've like poured through all the special features in the Blu-ray, and some of the low budget stuff they've done is incredible. But if you're like looking for a horror movie with a love story at the center of it, I highly recommend it. I also would recommend a movie from the 80s called Runaway Train, which is these 2 escaped prison convicts played by John Voight and Eric Roberts get onto a train to their freedom, but the train, as the title suggests, gets out of control in a hurry, and it's these two doomed men kind of hurtling towards their doom. And it's a movie you watch and you wonder, how did they shoot this movie without killing anybody? Because it's just it's all practical. It's so incredibly well done, and like the script it's got a weird pedigree too. It's a canon film, but the script is from Akira Kurosawa. And the director is Andrei Konchalovsky, who wrote Andrei Rublev with Tarkovsky. It's a fantastic, thrilling movie. And then I'll throw in a third one. I think Catherine Bigelow, she's got some famous films, but I think probably her most underappreciated, in my opinion, is Strange Days, which is also another New Year's Eve movie. And I think that's just a thrilling good time. It has some amazing POV camera effects that I've not seen in any other movie. So those are my picks for Unseen Gems. Anybody else take it away?
I just want to say The Signal sounds really interesting, and I have not seen it, but I have seen the 2014 Signal, which was meh.
This was really good. I wish Kristy had warned me. I would have pulled up the Blu-ray to prove that I have a copy of it somewhere in this house. But it's a good one. I would highly recommend seeking it out. Do you want to go ahead, Kevin?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So I've decided to kind of make my picks today be thematic. So all of my picks today are animated. I'm going to go through these really quickly. The first one I would recommend is a French animated film in 2011 called The Painting, or Le Tableau, however pronounce it. It's basically the story of these paintings, and each painting, the world inside each painting is real and comes to life. And in this painting, there's this society that quickly becomes this divided class system where all the rich and wealthy people are characters who are fully painted and fully dressed. And then the middle class people are half painted and half drawn. And then you have the lowest class people being just sketches. And it delves into this discussion about why some characters are completed and other characters aren't. And the story of the film is three characters, one from each class. They go on this journey to try to look for the painter who did those paintings and try to understand why some of the characters weren't finished to begin with.
So that sounds like it's in this weird place between like psychedelic and political. Is this like, does it lean towards either like either side?
It starts off political, but then it kind of becomes existential because like, not to give too much away, but as the film goes on, you kind of see the characters who live in the paintings, the way they speak of the painter. It's almost similar to how human beings speak of God, like God created us. Why does it seem like some of us are just not created equal? If that, you know, so there's also like a religious aspect to it.
What was the name of this one again?
The painting.
The painting. Thank you. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, if you have Canopy, it's free to watch.
Ooh, nice.
Sweet.
I'll star that real quick.
Typing that one in now.
Yeah, it's very, very, very beautiful. It's like it's generally 2D because it shows all the it shows the painting layers, but then the 3D is when one painting layer is clearly moving faster than another painting layer, you know, like
Nice.
when the characters move, kind of like how a Super Nintendo game goes where the background moves a little slower than the foreground, and that creates the illusion of 3D. Very, very, very pretty film, and it's short and sweet. It's only like an hour and 16 minutes.
Excellent.
Yeah. The next film I recommend is probably a popular documentary that a lot of us probably have seen, but I know a lot of people I talk to have never even heard of it, which is Tower, the 2016 documentary about the 1966 UT Austin shooting. And it's told from this, it's told with rotoscopic animation, and it's essentially witnesses and heroes and survivors of that shooting recalling their memories of what they were doing that day, where they were that day, and what it was like when that day unfolded. And I think it's one of the most gripping things that you could ever see, not just because it's a true story, but it's also because just the way the film is put together. It really feels like the event is unfolding for the very first time. It's like it's told in the present tense. And so if you're not familiar with what actually happened, it's probably some of the most suspenseful, gripping stories you'll ever hear. But it's a very personal story to me because I went to UT Austin for undergrad. So watching the rotoscopic animation of where each character was, it felt very surreal because I knew exactly where on campus they were. And knowing where the shooter was, which was the clock tower, I knew that every location that each person was at was not safe. And so it's a very crazy experience for me, but I think it should be a crazy experience for anyone who watches it. Right.
Is that on Canopy too? Do you know where we can find that one?
I think Tower's on Netflix, if I remember.
I think you're right, yeah.
Okay.
I think it is on Netflix. I don't know if it is if it's gone or not, but last I checked, I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, what I liked about Tower is that could have been a very kind of, cut and dry talking head documentary, but the rotoscope animation really brings it to life and gives it a lot of dimension. It's a very fascinating watch. Definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah. Yep. My next recommendation is a short. It's an anime short made in 2001. It's called Cat Soup. And the reason why I recommend it is because it's probably the most surreal, mind-boggling, bizarre thing you'll ever see. It's like one of those shorts where non-Japanese people would watch it and be like, why is Japan so weird? But essentially the story follows this family of anthropomorphic kittens, and it seems like one of them, the sister, has died and her soul has been carried over to some other dimension, and the brother must go and save her. And they go through this really, really trippy sequence. It's about 30 minutes long, and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. And I highly recommend it. The closest thing I can think of is it's like if any of you have ever seen Dumbo, if you remember that horribly nightmarish pink elephant sequence, that's what Cat Soup is like.
Excellent.
Okay, and then my last recommendation is movies from an anime series, because most people, when they think about anime films, they think of Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki's films, Takahata's films, and more recently they think of Makoto Shinkai's films. I like to call more attention to this famous anime series called Detective Conan, also known as Case Closed. It's one of the longest running anime series in the world. It's basically a murder mystery series. And they're known for the manga and the anime series, but they also do plenty of films. Like they do one like every year, and it's still like in the top 10 most financially successful films in Japan of every year. And so it's still met with really good reception. There's like 24 films total so far that they've made, and they're still making new ones. And so I highly recommend checking out any of them, because as a series, I think Detective Conan absolutely respects the intelligence of the viewer. It trusts that you can put puzzle pieces together, and it comes up with the most elaborate ways to pull off tricks. In fact, when I was little and I would watch those episodes, they would scare me to death, because I feel like people would become expert criminals after watching each episode. And so, yeah, every movie plays out pretty much like a case. So if you're not familiar with the series, most episodes are just one murder case. So one episode is about 24 minutes. Generally, one 24-minute episode is a murder case. Sometimes they go part 1, part 2. And so a movie is generally just the murder case extended to feature length, and they add more set pieces in between. They make the scale of the mystery much bigger. So yeah, and if you don't know which movie to start, I recommend Countdown to Heaven, which involves 2 new buildings under construction, and then a bomb goes off in the building and it locks everyone, it strands everyone inside the building, and they got to get out. There's actually a huge set piece from the 7th Fast and Furious movie that totally ripped off that movie. So
wasn't there a crossover with Conan? Wasn't there a crossover with Lupin?
Yes, there are. I think there are 2 spin-off films where Lupin joins Conan. Yeah, but if you don't count the crossover films, there's 24 of them.
Nice. I need more anime in my life, because I feel like so much like modern anime is like these like fantastical teen dramas. So
Yes.
like something that's like a good solid detectives, like, you know, mystery.
Yeah.
Is like catnip.
It's the exact opposite of that. And every case, when they figure it out, you learn something. You learn something in physics, you learn something in chemistry, you learn something in human psychology. Like there's always something that they bank off of to do the deductive reasoning, and I think it's great. Excellent. And the way you're misled sometimes is great. Really good stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. So those are my picks.
All right, I'll go ahead and hop on then. I mean, maybe it's just because I just turned 20. Well, I didn't just turn 21, but I'm in my very early adulthood that I can now look at adolescent teen movies of any kind, and just the experience is just so different and so sort of surreal at this point. So I got a few movies here that involve my general theme is they involve younger characters. And so the first one, well, actually the first 2, because it's kind of a pairing series here, and all 3 of them are from Australia. So that's another bridge here. There's a John Dugan two pairing here called, the first one's called The Year My Voice Broke, and the second one is called Flirting. And they're both Australian teen romances that follow a young boy played by Noah Taylor, who is he's going through the two great loves of his life at this point. And one, it takes place in his hometown, which is it's a very rural area, beautiful scenery. If you guys, I don't know how familiar everyone is with Australian cinema, but it's something that I'm starting to get more into recently. Like if you saw True History of Ned Kelly or the Kelly Gang recently, like
That was awesome.
That scenery was fantastic. But you get a lot of that here too, and it's in a lot. It's in a lighter tone, so I definitely recommend that. It also has co-role or early performances from both Ben Mendelsohn and Nicole Kidman.
Oh.
Yeah,
I love Ben Mendelsohn.
Yes,
Yeah, these
second that.
are two fantastic movies that I would definitely recommend checking out. And the other one, but another one from Australia, is called Mary and Max, directed by Adam.
Oh, my God. Yes. Jesus.
And that movie, I can tell by Kevin's reaction that it hits pretty hard. It's so it follows a pen pal relationship between a young girl in an abusive household in Australia and an older gentleman in New York City suffering from Asperger's. And it follows the lifelong relationship that the two share. And it becomes a question of like how important it becomes a case of how important communication and how important forming relationships, even if they aren't face to face like this, how valuable it was to both of them, even though both were going into uncharted waters in their own ways. And I guess I have two more movies, but it's another 1-2 pairing here, and it's If and Oh Lucky Man by Lindsay Anderson, two British films, very kind of gothic, but very creepy, both in different ways. Oh Lucky Man was written by Malcolm McDowell, and the only real carryover is that it's the same main character. But if you guys, it took me about 5 months to find a copy of Oh Lucky Man. I still haven't found a copy of The Year My Voice Broke. So if
It's
you guys,
the Mick Travis trilogy, right?
which one?
It's the Mick Travis trilogy. It's If, A Lucky Man, I think Britannia Hospital.
Yes.
With Lindsay
Yeah.
Anderson and Malcolm McDowell, yeah. I have A Lucky Man on VHS. I couldn't find a decent DVD or Blu-ray of it.
I was lucky enough to find, so a guy in Britain bought a Region 1, which is they can't watch in Britain,
Right.
who bought a Region 1 Oh Lucky Man, and then he sold it again online, and I got that. So I
Nice.
got pretty lucky there. But yeah, definitely recommend those. If is on the Criterion Collection, but Oh Lucky Man isn't. So yeah, those are my picks.
Excellent. Who's next?
I'm muted. I guess I'll go. Sorry. My daughter must have an army of neighborhood kids ahead above me, and I'm in the basement, and I thought it was distracting, so I muted myself. So I have a theme, I guess, too. Mine are all foreign language movies that I've kind of for a long time loved. And the one I'm sure many people might have heard of, Pulse by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, which is a really great Japanese horror film, kind of in the wake of Ringu, but it's much different than that film. It's definitely, I think, the market was created because of the popularity of Ringu, but he's doing something very kind of philosophical and different. And it's, first of all, the visuals of the ghost. It's sort of a ghost story in which, if you want to say, the afterlife is full and the dead are kind of looking for new real estate. And so they're kind of using our technology to enter our plane, our dimension or whatever. And the ghosts are actually incredibly effective. It's very captivating, both beautiful and creepy imagery. It's hard to describe the way the ghosts function in this film, but they're very unusual ghosts, and they're very, very cool. But the movie also is like very much ahead of its time. I think he was on to a lot of the problems of alienation that we've subsequently, this is very early in the days of the internet that this movie is sort of made, and he's sort of on to things that we've subsequently, I think, are still grappling with. And so I found that movie, especially, I don't know, in this day and age of social isolation as health, it's just an incredibly kind of thoughtful horror film that is very enigmatic. I think it reminds me of Franz Kafka a lot, actually, in that if you think you've got the answer, that answer eventually kind of eats itself, and it just leaves more questions by the time you're done. So I highly recommend Pulse. There was an American remake of it.
Terrible.
Thank you.
It's not great. It's interesting in the different decisions that it makes. I think as a companion on its own, it's not good, but it sort of makes decisions about some of the ambiguities of the original that make it an interesting thing to watch with the original. I definitely.
Yeah, the early 2000s, I always thought is a very weird time for horror movies in Hollywood, because they had this huge wave of remaking foreign horror films, and all of them just sucked.
Yeah. Well, also too, like the home video market was so flooded with like this influx of like Asian cinema. You had a lot of you had like Ringu, you had a lot of Miike stuff, and you had a lot of Kiyoshi Kurosawa stuff. And like I think a lot of that they were trying to, and like Park Chan-wook as well, and I think they're trying to market it as this like Mondo Extremo stuff. So then when you have this like very methodical, thoughtful slow burner stuff from Kurosawa, I don't think it really translated well, and people didn't know how to handle it. And then lo and behold, 15, 18 years later, we're still talking about Kiyoshi Kurosawa with great aplomb because he's so goddamn good.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I like to add that the first time I saw Pulse, I was probably too young when I saw it, because I remember being bored out of my mind when I first saw it. Because I remember thinking, how is a horror film this slow? Right. But what's really interesting was the ideas and the imageries of that film. It just forever lived in my mind. And as I got older, it just got more and more haunting. It scares differently from a film like Ringu. Ringu is like a movie that's meant to crawl under your skin, right? And Pulse is more like to make you like self-doubt almost. It's like a cautionary tale. It's like a film that's meant to suck out the energy that suck out your energy, right? And it plays into that isolation and the depression that can form from the alienation. And just real quick, I like to echo on top of the Kiyoshi Kurosawa and say, last year I went to the New York Film Festival, and I got to check out his newest film, which is To the Ends of the Earth, which is about this Japanese reporter going to Uzbekistan. And that film I highly recommend as well. If like when it eventually reaches, if it plays at a festival near you, or if it eventually gets on Blu-ray, please get it.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm dying to, because I've got
you have a copy of it
here. Yeah.
How'd you get that copy?
I got a screener from a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little connections.
Highly recommend that film.
Yeah.
I did not know, like when I saw To the Ends of the Earth, I did not know it was Kiyoshi Kurosawa until the end. I was like,
right.
Oh.
A non-horror Kurosawa movie is Bright Future. I don't know if you see it. It's terrific though. It's got that it's got that like apocalyptic feel that this movie's have, but it's not a horror film. It's fascinating. I think it's got Tadanobu Asano in it, who I think is terrific.
Yeah, and his
name again. What was the name again?
Tadanobu Asano.
The other film that you recommended.
Oh, Bright Future.
Bright Future. Oh, Bright Future. Okay.
Yeah. His work, I think he inspires other creators, right? I think that there's a way in which his movies are very kind of profound in a way that isn't surface level gotcha. But yeah, and that the jump scene from the tower is the setup and the filming of that is just incredible. There's a lot of suicides, trigger warning, who do watch that movie, and it's unbelievable. I mean, it looks so compelling and it's not CGI. It's really an incredible achievement. So yeah, Pulse is definitely one. Another one I want to talk about is a Soviet era horror film called V. It's spelled V-I-Y. It's about a witch, and it's based on a Gogol short story, and it's really funny for one thing. It's got a lot of real humor. There's a lot of work in the Soviet system in this film trying to undermine the authority of religion, and so like the kind of the main, I guess, villain, or he's the protagonist, but you laugh at him the whole time, whatever, if we have a term for that. And he's a monk that he's like a fallen monk, and he's sort of the victim of this witch by the end of this movie. But it's a really great movie from I want to say it's about 1967, and the last I checked, it was on Shudder. If anybody subscribes to that, I'm not sure if it still is or not. I believe the Shudder one was a dub. I like the subtitles better, but I think the one I looked at Shudder, there was a dub of it. But it's, in terms of like art, I mean, the Soviet system, Mosfilm, I mean, they really did a great job of training filmmakers, and there's a lot of technical, just amazing technical skill that goes into creating the witch and all the things that happen when she comes up. And so basically what happens is this monk sort of kills this old witch, and she turns into a beautiful woman at the end. And it turns out she's the daughter of some important person, and this important person makes the monk sit up with her for 3 nights in a row with her body, and at midnight her body awakens and tortures him all night in this church. And it's a really remarkable movie that is very funny, but also surprisingly creepy. And I think like Soviet era horror is not something people often think of, but that is a really, really interesting movie that is not impossible to find. And I believe it's probably on YouTube. I saw it once on YouTube.
That's how I first saw it too. I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's terrific. My Criterion prediction column, I wrote about that years ago. But yeah, no, it's a routinely hilarious and very creepy movie.
It is.
And the framing device is perfect. It's like 3 days that he has to spend with the body, right? Yeah, it's terrific. I love that movie. Yeah,
it's great. I remember years ago, some friend of mine got me some bootleg VHS of it, and so I'd seen it. Oh gosh, I don't know how many years ago, in the late 90s, and then suddenly YouTube happens and I'm able to see it.
I know, right?
So yeah,
you go from feeling like a hotshot when you have a bootleg VHS tape, then YouTube's like, oh, I already got it.
Exactly. He actually also gave me a copy of Ringu before The Ring was actually made in America. And
the same thing, yeah.
And at the end, when you're watching the bootleg VHS, they actually play the video that people watch on the videotape.
Right.
And
then, of course, your phone rings. Yeah.
It's a very unnerving way to end a movie. And the last one I want to talk about is a Hungarian movie from 2003, I think, called Control, spelled with a K and 2 L's. It's by, what's his name? Nimrod Antal, who did one of these Predator movies, the one with where they're on the island. I can't remember what it was. And so
the one with Adrian Brody.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Plural.
Predators.
Yeah, that movie, is what it is. But Control is actually really great. It takes place. So I have a full confession here. I've been trying to write about this. I've got a pitch accepted for about 2 months now, and every time I make some progress, the world puts me into a state of despair, and I'm unable to get through the stupid essay. So those of you who know what I'm talking about, I'll accept your thoughts and prayers. But the movie itself is really interesting. It takes place in the Budapest, Hungary subway system, and it's basically at this time, at least, and I had been to Budapest with my wife, who's Hungarian, and we the subway system, when it was under communist rule, was free, of course, and so people just go on the train and ride it. But once that system ended, they start charging people, but they don't have a particular system for it. So what they have are these guys that sit down there and they check tickets, and everyone just disrespects the hell out of them, right? And this movie is basically about that sort of existential experience of being this person who is working underground, like underneath the city, keeping the whole city running, and absolutely nobody respects anything you do. So it's about sort of it's very, again, I mentioned Kafka again here. because it very much seems like something that's inspired by Kafka. And the movie it's I guess a comedy horror film. I would, if I had to categorize it as anything. But it's very effective. It makes perfect use of this very creepy subway system. When you go down the escalator into the subway, I got vertigo. It's like 1,000 feet down or something. It's so disorienting to get down there, and it makes perfect use of that. And I highly recommend the movie Control by Nimrod Antal. So
yeah,
Excellent.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for one location or tight location movies.
Yeah, and the backstory is there's a pusher who's pushing people in front of the trains, and so that's also going on underneath these people's just sort of everyday existential crises. And so yeah, it's got a little bit of
Yeah, that
creepiness
sounds
to it.
great. I definitely need to check that one out.
And that's all I have.
All right. I guess I'll I'll jump into the next one here.
Go, Mark.
So I decided to go with some films that are a little bit more trippy. One film that I've been kind of like fascinated with recently is it's kind of a two-part film, I guess. It's called World on a Wire, and it's by Rainer Werner Fassbinder. It was only like recently recovered. It was on like German television in the 1970s, and it was only like recently like put to video like a few years ago. And a lot of people are going to look at this as like the precursor to like The Matrix and stuff. It's a very minimalist sci-fi film where it's about this corporation that's developing this simulation to test like what's going to happen in the future. But like the more they test it, the more they start realizing that like the AI starts going like weird, and then it starts like formulating, well, what if I'm in the simulation? So then it becomes like this weird like existential questioning. It's very much like I say, it's very much like inspired The Matrix, but it's more.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Like but it's very minimalist. So like if you can't get through Solaris, I would say it's very slow, but it's very like methodical. But it moved too fast, and already have like the cool ideas about identity and what it means to exist and what it means to, you know, have a soul if like everything is like data and all like spread out like that. It's really cool. Like it's about like 3.5 hours long. It was a two-part TV movie, so it's like split into two parts. I absolutely adore it. Like it's got like that cool like it's very minimalist. Like most of it takes place in the building, and it's got like this cool like retro kitschy 70s stuff. Like the few times they show like the simulation as little as they can, because when they do, it's like this like space helmet with like needles coming out of it. So it's got like some cool design like that.
I love World on a Wire, and I'm a big Fassbender fan. And if you're a Fassbender fan and you watch this, you'll see like Fassbender's like gallery of stock players, and it's like such a delight to see you know, all these guys in this like weird alternate VR world. No, it's to piggyback off what you're saying, it's a terrific film, and it's a two-parter. Yeah, so you know, if it's a little heavy, you can break it up in pieces and watch it, but it's great.
Yeah, but like 3.5 hours, yeah, you can just split it up between them.
Yeah,
it's even like on the DVD, it's like split up between the discs, so it feels like you're watching television.
Yeah, it's like art house binge watching, you know.
Yeah.
There's a great book called The Weird and the Eerie by Mark Fisher, and he actually writes about that movie. That's how I found out about it. So if you want to
Nice.
he uses it to talk about those concepts.
Yeah, it's actually I haven't read it too, but it's based on that book Simulacron 3, which they're developing. Another more crazy one that I want to recommend is it's an Estonian film. It came out a few years ago. It's called November. And this is like a very strange, like it's weird. Like to describe this film, it's just basically it's like a 19th century village where there's like curses going on for like both romance and immortality, but it does so with like weird witches and werewolves and like machinery that's come to life. Like within the first 5 minutes, there's like a sentient piece of like machinery made out of like scythes and blades that kidnaps a cow by wrapping a rope around its leg and hoists it into the air like a helicopter and just spins it around. And that's within the first 5 minutes. It's very much like those very like I said, very much like minimalist, like kind of like Eastern European type stuff, like Stalker or It's Hard to Be a God. There's like
it looks like Hard to Be a God.
It's very much in that same style. Yeah, it's
I'm
like it's
shocked
black
I
and
haven't watched
white.
this yet, based on that description.
Oh, it's a dude. I think it's on some streaming service right
Oh,
now.
that's great. Excellent.
Um, the other one I wanted to recommend was it's a Steven Soderbergh film that I don't think too many people have seen. It's called Schizopolis. It was made in the mid 90s, like in between he was making films, and he made it very cheap. And it's basically just Steven Soderbergh playing three different characters. One of them is just like a middle-aged guy who works in an office. His life is so boring that at one point he just starts speaking in just like what he's trying to say instead of saying the actual words. So like if you've seen like the Muppet movie where they have the villain saying maniacal laugh, it's pretty much that for like a whole scene of just describing what he's saying. There's this weird subplot where he thinks his wife is cheating on a dentist who looks exactly like him, but all he can talk about is dentistry. And then there's like another character who's like an exterminator who basically talks in random dialogue. There's no way to decipher anything what he's saying. He says ridiculous stuff like Elmo is tired now.
Nose Army.
And what I love so much about this film is that at the festivals, like, people hated it. So for like the general release, Soderbergh filmed an intro where he basically said, "This is the best film ever made. If you don't think it is, watch it several more times." That's how brazen he was with this.
So I have never seen this film. I've never heard of this film, but one thing I do know about Soderbergh with the few films I have seen from him is he's a guy who can do anything.
Pretty much.
True. Yeah.
Like he did this for like a shoestring budget, like half the cast is him. So
I think like after he made the Underworld, and it was like kind of it kind of bombed after Sex, Lies, and Videotape. And then he was like, this is my way of saying like I needed to make Schizopolis, a movie no one gave a shit about. Which is brilliant. You know, like it's that like classic exercise of like one for them, one for me kind of thing. And like the Schizopolis was like for me and them.
And like the last one I want to recommend, this was like a hard one to recommend because I don't think there's a North American release of it. This is a film called Cleopatra. It's an anime. It's a very kind of early anime. It's from like 1970. This was during a time called there was something called Anime Rama, where essentially Osamu Tezuka wanted to make more adult anime features. So one of his crazy ideas was he wanted to retell the story of Cleopatra. But if anyone's read like Tezuka's manga and stuff like that, where he retells like the story of Buddha, and like has historical stuff like Phoenix, it's retelling Cleopatra, but in like ridiculous slapsticky ways. Like he'll like include like fly swatters, he'll like exaggerate like sexual maneuvers. He will put guns into Colosseum fights. There's even a cameo in the film by Astro Boy at one point for
That's
no
awesome.
reason. Just randomly sit there. And like the strangest thing too is like the framing device for this is that it's set in the future where they got to figure out what Cleopatra did in the past to save the future somehow. But everything in the future is shot with partial rotoscope. So what they did was they filmed all these people like going about their stuff, but they only rotoscoped the skin of the characters. So everyone's walking around like it looks like normal live action footage, but they drew over just like the faces and the hands. So it is the most surreal thing ever. And it was like so bizarre. Like nobody knew how to interpret this film when it came out in Japan. So it was like a box office bomb. And they were hoping to get back some money. So when it actually came to America briefly, but under a porno company because there was sex in it. So they retitled it Cleopatra, Queen of Sex. But because there wasn't a lot of sex in it, porno audiences actually demanded their money back, and the studio who distributed this went bankrupt.
Is this like a Caligula thing?
It comes pretty close. Like there's some sex in there, but it's like exaggerated. It's cartoony. It's ridiculous. Like at one point when like Cleopatra is trying to like reform herself to become more beautiful, someone's doing it with like this stamp of like breasts and like stamps it on there, but then gets carried away and stamps like 5 more times. It is absolutely bizarre. Like I hope that like Discotech or some distributor eventually puts it out there, because they have put out other anime rama films like the Belladonna of Sadness is a more popular one. but yeah, this one is like it's pretty underground, but I hope it comes about someday. I hope they could find if they dubbed it. I hope there's like a dub of it too, because it is like the strangest, like it's like the most adult like Tezuka film you'd probably see.
How did you see it?
Somebody got me a fan sub copy like way back in the day. Like it's one of those films like it was like the Belladonna of Sadness for a while. For a while you could only find it on like fan subs and bootlegs. And then eventually a distributor picked it up. So I'm hoping that someday somebody will take notice of Cleopatra.
That sounds incredible. I need that.
Yeah. That's all I got.
All right, well, then I think that's me. So I do not have any cool theme to mine. I just have 3 random ones. But the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about overlooked movies, I feel like it's almost always documentaries, because it can be just such a struggle to get people to watch documentaries. So Kevin, I was really excited you included one. You got Tower. I kind of got one along the same line. So I was thinking about one that is, I always recommend to people if they are struggling to get into documentaries, and that is Touching the Void, which is a movie from 2003, basically about a disastrous mountain climb. So these 2 guys, it's about these 2 guys go climbing up this mountain that had never been summited before, and then right as they start back down, one guy slips and basically shatters his leg. And then it all gets worse from there as they're trying to get down. So, I mean, it's a very approachable documentary because it is just basically this huge thrill ride of these guys recounting what's happening. And then they've also gone in and they took some mountain climbers and reshot a bunch of stuff. So it's not just talking heads. It's really exciting and a really thrilling watch. So if you're not too versed on documentaries, or even if you just haven't seen this one yet, I do highly recommend it. It's super fun movie.
Is it the one where they get like the song stuck in their head and it just drives them mad?
Yeah.
So it's like a true story, and then they reenact certain scenes.
Yes.
Okay.
Go in and reenact parts of it so that they have a lot of footage to show as the guys are talking over what happened.
Okay, got it.
Kind of like the rotoscope they did with Tower, so that you can kind of see how everything happened.
It's kind of like Rescue 911, where they'd like reenact the stuff that they did that was more intense and thrilling.
Right. Okay.
So the next one I have is actually just from last year. It's a movie called Manos, which great movie. Unfortunately, in America, it was distributed by Neon, and I think we all know Neon had an amazing year, and I think they just had too many things to push last year, and this kind of got lost in the shuffle. So this is a movie about a group of child soldiers. Basically, they start turning on each other, and the movie is essentially just like a riff on Lord of the Flies with just a bunch of nightmarish imagery, and it is a really stunning film if you're able to sit with that kind of really, really tough material. Because it was distributed by Neon, it's available on Hulu right now. You can stream it. So I do highly recommend checking that one out.
Yeah, it's not shy at all about the Lord of the Flies thing. It has a headless pig at one point too.
Yeah, like pretty early on, you're like, oh, they're doing the Lord of the Flies thing, and then they make it just very explicit. It's like, well, at least they knew they were doing that.
But it
looks terrific. Yeah, it's been on my watch list since a little late last year. Yeah.
No, that's a great movie.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that's happening to a lot of people where it just kind of like, this sounded great, and then I'll get to it at some point.
Right.
Well, like you said, at least it's on Hulu.
Right, but it is on Hulu, which is the really good thing. It's easy to find, at least.
I remember. I think it was during when I was at the New York Film Festival where I wanted to catch Manos, but I couldn't find a theater near where I was staying at to see it, and then so I saw Ad Astra instead.
Oh,
yeah.
I like
the thing.
Ad Astra.
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah. I think the thing is that like your film really does live and die by distribution these days, because you don't have these like, these regional, screenings, theatrical screenings. So, being in Western Mass or upstate New York or whatever, like we don't catch a lot of stuff. We have to like, wait for a streaming, release or just, drive into the city or something like that. But that's not going to happen now because they'll,
Actually, distribution, I think, is a really interesting topic that we could have one day, because especially with that filmmaker Jim Cummings, who
Oh yeah,
basically self-distributed Thunder Road and
Thunder Road
got
was
everyone to.
terrific.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
terrific film, and but that film was a very interesting case study about distribution, about funding and distribution.
Right. Most definitely.
Yeah, and he's been very vocal on Twitter in encouraging everyone to follow his model. And then there has been some debates as to whether or not it's the best way of going about it, and you know.
Yeah, if it gets it out there, it's the best way, in my opinion. But
Right,
yeah, to be
right.
continued.
And I think with the whole distribution thing, I think this is where, because you know how the average moviegoer, like your friends or your relatives, most of the time you're gonna hear a lot of people saying, "I don't care what critics think," or like, "Oh, critics can't enjoy a movie." Really, once you get into how a film needs to get marketed, how a film needs to get distributed, honestly, that's the part where I love being a critic the most, which is you're promoting the film, really. Even
Yeah,
if the
definitely.
film does something that does not work for you, if you come about it with this act of support, really
Right.
the critic and the filmmaker really should be best buds. You
Yeah,
know?
definitely. And that's the thing, is that, like, I was saying to a friend of mine, I was like, the most important thing you can lend to a film is your attention. That's all it needs. The
Yeah.
biggest thing art needs is one's attention, and then the rest is all what happens from start to finish. So yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, we're stepping all over Emily's.
So just the last one I had, I was thinking about kind of a work from a director that people maybe not haven't seen. And then I know Oz Perkins has kind of been gaining steam recently with each of his films. So I think he kind of makes a lot of slow burn horror films that kind of some people really love and some people really hate. He made I'm the Pretty Things That Live in the House and then Gretel Hansel just this year. But his first movie is actually my favorite of his, and that is The Blackcoat's Daughter. I think it actually had released under a different name first. But if you are kind of in between on him like I am, or maybe weren't into his later stuff as his name kind of gains this recognition, go back and check out The Blackcoat's Daughter. It has a way better payoff, I think, to those slow burn horror than his later films did.
Nice.
Oh, A24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking of distribution, that's a studio I do trust implicitly.
This has been an exceptionally strong conversation. I think I've written down at least a dozen titles I need to check out here.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Alexander, if you want to.
Oh, that's me. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna try and consolidate it down to like 3 movies. I'm gonna start off with Toshiaki Toyoda's 9 Souls. This is a really cool Japanese movie that came out, I want to say 2003. It's about 9 guys that tunnel out of prison, and it's their various lives and stuff. One of them's a counterfeiter, one of them's a mad biker, another one of them murdered their parents, and that's the monikers they're introduced with. And if you watch the trailer, it's like, so-and-so murdered his parents, so-and-so is a counterfeiter. And it becomes this very like soulful road movie. It's like if like Wim Wenders made a Yakuza film. You have like the kind of like existential exploration of the self with this kind of like freewheeling road movie mentality. And it's a very fascinating movie. And it's I want to say it's violent, and it's existential, and it's very it's got art house sensibilities. It's almost like if Jim Jarmusch it's like if Jim Jarmusch and Takashi Miike made a movie together, but instead we have
Sold.
Yeah, exactly.
You have my attention.
Yeah.
Now you totally have my attention.
This is the dude that, I don't know if you've heard of Blue Spring. He did that, and he also did the Third Crow's Zero movie. Toshiaki Toyoda is a great guy, a fascinating filmmaker. So definitely check that out. And then my follow-up to that would be big Abel Ferrara fan. I don't know how you guys feel about Uncle Abel. He's one of my favorites. Director of Miss 45, Bad Lieutenant, 444 Last Day on Earth, and the one I'm going to select is China Girl. It's basically his gangland revisionist tale of West Side Story, where you have a romance blossoming between Chinatown and Little Italy, and like Mott Street in New York is like the DMZ between these two romances. And you have a lot of like, gangland throwdowns. And it's this very gritty, genre-based picture. And with Abel Ferrara, he's a very confrontational, expressionist director. But he's so commonly eschews genre, and he's so idiosyncratic. And once in a while, he dips into genre, and he just kind of does that with his, characteristic flair for themes of Catholic guilt and I guess economic and social allegory with a city that's very important to him, which is New York City. And it's a very fascinating film, and I would definitely recommend it. China Girl is terrific, and if you can track it down, definitely grab it.
I see that he just put out Siberia.
Yeah, with Willem Dafoe, kind of became
with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, who's one of my favorites. And then Tommaso came out earlier this year, which I reviewed for Talk Film Society, which is
Tommaso.
It's my number one of the year, even though it was distributed this year. And then let's see, for my last one, I've got a pile here, but I'm gonna go with Takashi Miike's The Bird People of China. Takashi Miike is like the forebearer of like schlocky. Yes. Yeah, we all know Audition and Gozu and Dead or Alive and blah, blah, blah. And then you have this very lyrical kind of road trip film about these guys going into the titular area of China to find a village of I want to say like Neapolitan influenced. It's like Nepalese Chinese immigrant villages that have people that can fly, supposedly. And there's like a yakuza, a geographer, and a accountant that go out there. And it's a fascinating film. It's very heartfelt. It's very sincerely rendered. It actually got me to tear up a little bit, which is something you wouldn't really associate with Miike.
With Miike.
I know, right? Yeah.
Okay.
He's got this whole other side to him. Very heartful. And I think like Bird People in China, Zebra Man. There's this other dimension to this dude that I don't think a lot of people are privy to.
Okay.
So I would
I'm very much willing to try that, because I gotta say, Miike is either a bullseye hit or like a whiff.
Oh yeah. I mean, the guy puts out like 2 movies a year at least, so.
Yeah, that's one thing that you have that even if you don't like his films, like you have to admire that.
Yeah.
That he puts out like 2 movies a year, and each one there's just so much talent behind the camera.
Yeah, he's like Roger Corman on 2 feet or something. I don't know. He's a maniac. I love him. But yeah, just like in it's a striking counterbalance to his body of work. It's so fascinating seeing this guy do this like very beautiful soulful adventure film that's not drenched in blood. Well, as drenched in blood as his other movies.
You can surprise me. I mean,
don't get me wrong.
He did probably the least violent entry in 3 Extremes.
I know, right?
I think, yeah. It's just like, here's a horror film called 3 Extremes, and his is like the least
I don't know.
It's Fruit Chan and Park Chan-wook, and then Takashi Miike.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what you guys think, but I remember seeing 3 Extremes, and I was just completely repulsed by it. And I don't know, maybe I just did not see it at the right time.
It starts with dumplings, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one is kind of difficult.
They're all difficult. I mean, except the Miike one at the end. The Miike one, I remember some of the imagery. I actually appreciate how that one is paced more, and the other 2 were just stupidly repulsive.
I think the second were cut. I think was like the most memorable of it. The Miike one, I think, was made most effectively scary, but
it was more cerebral.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Thank you. And it's funny because Miike can work in these like short format things, like the Showtime Masters of Horror.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I don't know if you saw that or not, but I think he did like exceptionally well there.
Didn't they cut that one?
Oh yeah, no one saw it until it came out on home video.
Yeah, because they said, "Oh, it's Showtime. Do whatever you want, Miike." And then they saw his film, and they're like, "We can't put that on."
Yeah, choose your words carefully with Takashi Miike.
There's like this phrase that I like to use. I first learned about this phrase from this other critic who, member of LA Film Critics Association, Wade Major, one of my favorite critics
Oh
ever.
yeah, no, I love Wade Major. Yeah.
He has a term I love using, which is when he describes a director as a guy who inflicts things. And I think that the first two shorts of Three Extremes are just films that inflict things.
I think the DVD that I have has Fruit Chan's Dumplings, of all things, has its full-length feature as a bonus feature, which is so funny because if you ask someone nowadays who's the most prominent director of the three, no one would say Fruit Chan, even though I love Fruit Chan. I think Durian Durian's like a great film. And then now, it's like Park Chan-wook, who just, did The Handmaid and everything like that. And then of course, Takashi Miike, who's a huge deal. It's just funny going back and seeing that Fruit Chan's the most prominently featured filmmaker in the whole trifecta there.
Of all the ones that get a full-length feature treatment, Dumplings gets it.
I know, right?
Anyway,
go figure.
So thank you all for those awesome choices. And it's interesting, like people might not realize this, but we don't discuss this at all. I don't know if anybody else has among each other, but yeah, the fact that there was such a kind of diverse genres and stuff that was discussed here is pretty amazing. And so there was a lot of great films mentioned. Makes me feel like I undersold and didn't describe my films at all. Of course, I try to be fast because I'd rather listen to all you lovely people chat than go on. Though I do want to throw out really quickly this movie from 2004, which I would have brought the DVD up, but I'm sure you've all like lent out a movie to someone and never got it back.
Oh yeah.
So that's was the 2004 movie called Mean Creek, and it's a psychological kind of drama. It's these kids take this bully on this boating trip to kind of humiliate him, and it goes horribly wrong. But it's just one of those movies that I don't really hear people talk about very much, and I think it's a terrific film. So thank you again. That was very fun to listen to, and I also made a list of a lot. Yeah.
So now that some of you guys have showed the Blu-ray at the front, I like to show just a few more really quickly, okay? Because I have my shelf right up here. Okay, this one, and this one. Please check out Certified Copy, which I think is a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. One of the best films of that decade. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Kiarostami is the best, yeah.
Please watch 2 Days, One Night.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Probably one of their more underseen films. I'm actually not a fan of their most recent one, which I saw at New York Film Festival, Young Ahmed. I'm not the biggest fan of that one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I saw this at New York and just could not stop thinking about it ever since. And I've been very vocal about Beanpole on Twitter, so
yeah,
it's available now. Please get it.
Yeah,
it's worth the blind buy.
It was on Mubi, I think, for a while. Well, for a month, because that's their thing.
Totally worth the blind buy. Like,
nice.
Do it.
Oh, it's Kino, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah, Kino's awesome.
So yeah, I think we've definitely given people plenty to think about to watch for sure. It's even more than I anticipated. So
nice.
So I guess that it's time for trivia. If you want to take us away on that, Jake.
Yeah, I'm just fixing my camera that fell over. All right, hello and welcome to Jake Tropila's Trivia Hour. I promise it won't take that long. Most of you know the drill, but I will repeat what will happen. I will ask 10 film and TV related questions to the group. The first person to say the correct answer will earn a point. Some questions will have the opportunity to earn a bonus point. Do we have any questions?
Do we just yell them out?
Yes, first person to yell it out. I'll be kind of monitoring the single cam. I'm on my phone. It's a bit trickier, but all right. So here we go. Question number 1, and these will probably start easy and get harder. But question 1: How much energy does Doc Brown need to send the DeLorean back in time?
1.21 gigawatts.
No.
I think that was Mark that got that one.
I was muted. Oh no.
Oh,
Oh, there
very
it is.
important.
Oh, whoops.
Make sure you are not muted if you want to answer. That's a design flaw that we're working out, but you have to keep that speaker on. All right. 1 point to Mark. Excellent. Here we go. Question number 2. This one's worth 2 points. What is the most watched TV show finale of all time, and how many viewers did it have?
Cheers.
I said
Who said
math.
who
I'm
said
gonna say
MASH?
Mash?
Who said MASH first?
That was me, I think.
Yeah, Luke said MASH
Luke
first.
said MASH.
Yeah.
Do you want to ballpark how many viewers it had?
Gee, I want to say like 150 million. I don't know.
A lot.
That's a lot.
Close. You had the right integers there. It's 105 million. But
Wow.
not bad. You got a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuesday has
3-digit
up the top.
million? That's crazy.
What?
All right.
It's one
Question
of the
number-
saddest episodes of television ever.
I'll bet. I mean, it's the end. Yeah. All right. Question number 3. What is the lifespan of a replicant?
4 years.
Yeah.
Correct. Is that Mark?
Yeah.
That was Mark.
Mark.
Love
All right.
Blade Runner.
Guys, Mark's running away with this thing. Come on. We got everybody step up the end.
That's very good.
All right. Question number 4. Which film is largely regarded as the most watched movie of all time?
Shawshank Redemption?
Shawshank Redemption.
No.
No,
Ah,
actually.
Goodfellas.
No.
The
Casablanca?
most watched?
Yes.
Wizard of Oz?
Correct.
Yeah,
Ooh.
should have been.
Wizard
Oh.
of Oz. Luke,
I think
Congratulations.
Shawshank is like
congratulations.
rated as like the most popular. I think that's what we were.
Yeah, I think the IMDb polls got us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
Shawshank is number 1 on
Shawshank as
IMDb.
number one. Like-
Yeah.
Like most rented, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Most viewed. There's like
All
an
right.
amazing
Yeah.
story behind the whole Ruby Slippers copyright thing for Wizard of Oz.
All right. All right. Question number 5. Now, to get this question correct, you need both answers. Which 2 films tied for the best sound editing Oscar in 2013?
Skyfall and
Gravity.
0 Dark 30.
Kevin knocked it out of the park. Excellent.
Damn.
It was Mark Wahlberg and Ted who presented that.
Oh, wow.
I remember
Wow.
that.
Amazing. That wacky bear. All right. Question number 6. Which actor has recently surpassed Christopher Lee as having the most on-screen deaths?
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
No.
I
Damn it. Sean Bean dies like in everything. he's
know,
in.
right?
Just say Sam Jackson.
Close.
Sorry. Sorry, it is
For
not
most
Sean Bean.
deaths, right?
Yes, most on-screen deaths in film
Oh.
or TV or both.
Or, yeah.
Not Sam Jackson. Is
Steve
it?
Buscemi.
Not Sam Jackson, not Steve Buscemi. Any
Ooh.
other guesses out there?
John Hurt?
Not John Hurt.
I'm going to go with... I got nothing. I don't know.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Emily, Kristy, any guesses? Danny?
No.
No. All right. The answer is Danny Trejo.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
read that.
okay.
that
Now
makes
that you
sense.
mentioned it, I
Alright.
read that.
Sorry,
Oh.
nobody gets a point. I think that's a
Bummer.
first.
Forgot about all
All
those
right.
badass movies.
Right?
Yeah, he
I
dies
was almost
twice
in a
each
movie
film.
with him, actually.
Oh, wow.
Tell me none of you saw Badasses on the Bayou?
No, I actually haven't.
I missed that one. The red box was fresh out of copies. All right, question number 7. What is the name of the creepy diner in Mulholland Drive?
Winkies.
Correct.
Very
Alexander gets
good.
a point.
Yay.
Alexander's on the board with 1.
Woo.
To recap, Mark has 2, Luke has 2, Kevin has 1, Alexander has 1.
Yeah.
Here we go. Question number 8. What is Alf's real name?
Alien life form.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that is not correct.
Oh.
That's what Alf stands for, but what
Oh,
is his
damn.
real name?
Is it, his planet's Melmac. Does that count for anything?
No, I'm sorry.
Can I make a Simpsons reference? He's back in pog form.
Any guesses? Alf's real name? I laughed so hard when I saw the answer to this question.
Declan? I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. All right. Seems like nobody knows it. The answer is Gordon Shumway.
Whoa, yeah. No, we
I
would have
wish
been
I
here
knew the
all
answer.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you all learned a fun trivia question.
This
All
is
right.
gonna save me someday. I know
I
it.
should have known that. I saw the Alf movie. Why didn't
Question number 9. For some reason, I think this is Kristy's time to shine. Question number 9. In the beginning of Aliens, how long has Ripley been in stasis?
57 years.
Kevin, correct.
Way to put the
Wow.
pressure on me, Jake.
Bam.
I'm so sorry. All right. Kristy, you're going to do horrible on this next question. Wink. No, I'm kidding. All right, next question. Here we go. So this is anybody's game, and I'll tell you why. This next question is worth 4 points. And that question is, name the 4 Golden Girls.
Oh God.
Ruth,
The characters, right? Not the actors.
I got nothing.
Rose.
The characters' names.
Yeah, it's Rose. Oh shit. Blanche.
I know Thorin.
We're not doing the dwarves this week.
Creepy.
I've never watched Golden Girls. Yeah, I got nothing. Sorry.
I know these two, and I don't know why, because it's not like I'm a Golden Girl.
Blanche,
Kristy.
Rose, Dorothy, and Sophia.
That is correct.
Damn it.
Oh,
Nice job, Danny.
now here's the
Awesome.
thing. All right, so Kristy had 2 of them. Danny came in, he had 4 of them, but I don't know if I should give 2 of those to Kristy because she already said them.
Yeah, I
Um,
knew the other two.
In any case, yes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a 5-way tie for first
Whoa.
place, which means we have to go to the tiebreaker, and it's a
Okay.
doozy. All right, here is the tiebreaker.
Make sure I'm not muted.
Now, whoever can get the closest approximation or list the most ingredients will win the trivia. All right, the tiebreaker is, what is Reynolds Woodcock's complete breakfast order in Phantom Thread?
Wait, if I don't score into this, can I answer?
Well, I'm sorry, Alexander. It's between everybody who's tied for first.
Oh,
But if you want to impress after, if nobody can get it,
Yeah, dude.
I will.
Do it,
The floor will
Alex.
be yours. Does anybody else have an idea? This is for all the marbles.
So someone on film Twitter knows that answer. Like
yeah.
the back of his hand.
You don't even need. I want to reiterate. You don't need to say everything. Just whoever has the most items. So if you say one thing and nobody else says anything, you'll get it correct.
Is there something with poached eggs?
That is an item in the order. Kristy, you win.
Bam.
'Cause I have
All right. O'Shea is correct. Alexander, do you know the full order?
No, I just really like the movie, but I do believe there's toast involved.
So the answer is, it's a Welsh rarebit with poached egg on top, not too runny, bacon, scones, butter with cream, jam, raspberry, not strawberry, a pot of lapsang tea, and some sausages.
Ooh, yeah. So no toast.
Quite
Yeah,
the
That
record.
sounds delicious.
I know. I'm hungry.
British
I know.
British Grand
It's-
Slam.
So now you're gonna send
Best-
that to all of us, right? Or do I just
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Does it go in
well,
the
Kristy,
movie fan cookbook?
Kristy, you win. So you get a copy of the Reynolds Woodcock breakfast. I'll be air mailing that to you overnight.
awesome. I won't eat until then.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Excellent. Well, that was the trivia. Kristy, congratulations. You were the new champion.
Congrats.
And I didn't even get the aliens one. Bummer. But thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
And no, as always, that's always so much fun. It's awesome that it was such across the board this time too. That was,
Yeah.
and I'm curious
Yeah,
what that other question was that you're going to use for a later time, but I'll let you keep that one under wrap.
Yeah. It's for Manon only.
Okay, I'll let her know that
Cool.
there's one in queue for her. So yeah, that wraps the Film Inquiry Roundtable number 4. There was a lot of terrific suggestions from a variety of different kinds of movies to, obscure to not as obscure. And I really thank everybody for taking the time to do this. It's wonderful to see everyone, and it's a lot of fun. And I think it's a positive thing to have right now. And I hope that anybody watching enjoys it, and definitely, let us know your kind of hidden gems as well. Keep the conversation going. And, thank you again, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Hey,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.